Hey, teachers. So I want to spend some time talking about the Houston Independent School District, which isn't really independent at this point in time. First, I'm going to say I have like all my notes separated and everything, trying to make this a smooth video for you. It's probably not going to be. I was trying to keep things organized, and then just all the research I was doing, all the information I was finding kind of got away from me. And I want to start with what happened. So back in June, I believe, Greg Abbott in Texas, state governor, um, he removed the HISD, which is Houston Independent School District. HISD is superintendent, and appointed Mike Miles. Mike Miles was at one point a Dallas Independent School District superintendent, and looking up his time there wasn't much to say. Honestly, there wasn't much I could find, and I feel like this was back in, like, 2015, 2017, somewhere around there. Um, all that I really found about his time as superintendent is that his time at Dallas ISD did not see significant academic gains. And Greg Abbott took over HISD because they weren't making gains. So my question is, why are we putting in somebody who did not make a huge difference as superintendent in another district to make academic gains? Right? Make it make sense. Um, so there's that. He's also the founder, the CEO, the creator, I'm not exactly sure, of Third Future Schools. I believe that's what that's called. It's in my notes somewhere. Um, and it's a set of charter schools. And charter schools, if you don't know, run on completely different rules. They their pay is completely independent. There's usually a tuition with a lot of charter schools. Rules are just very different there. And I feel like that's very important because um, people are paying in. It's not a public school. And not only that, but a lot of charter schools can make their own rules when it comes to the students they allow into the schools. They can make it so students who have are in need of special education services or ELL, which is English language learner services, um, you make it so they don't get a spot. They say that they help and support all students, but when it comes down to it, they kind of push out those families that have students with higher needs. And there is a lot of controversy about that. Um, and I haven't found much proof because everything that I found has been very slanted towards Mike Miles. And it's always been like Mike Miles's people talking about the charter schools. I can't really find like where there could be truth. Everything's painted very rosy. Um, so anyways, back in June, he is a state appointed superintendent. Um, This is a district. Houston is a district with nearly 200,000 students. More than 80% of those are Black and Latino students. Um, on June 1st, TEA, which is the Texas Education Agency, seized control of HISD. Um, the members of the HISD Board of Education was removed. Please know that these are democratically elected board members. They were removed, and a new HISD Board of Managers were appointed by the TEA, the Texas Education Agency. Commissioner, who is Mike Morath, they replaced them. So basically, they put a bunch of yes men to Mike Miles on this now Board of Managers. And so everyone that was elected by the community members, by the parents, by the teachers are no longer there. And so these community members do not have a voice. These parents, these teachers do not have a voice there. Um, so Third Future Schools was that, yeah. Was the name of Miles's charter schools. So, this new board of managers, they're racially diverse, but they mostly live in affluent areas of Houston, which is west of downtown. I don't know anything about Houston. This is all information that like I had to research and find out. Um, and it's far from the schools in Northeast Houston, which is targeted by Miles's reforms. He has brought something called the New Education System, called NES, um, and has brought that with him to implement in schools. And he's targeted 28 elementary, middle, and high schools. They're all serving low income, predominantly minority student populations. Um, and they were reorganized according to Miles's new education system, NES. Get out of there, dog. Um, so yes, they are considered to be underperforming, but following more information and like you really have to jump into like TikTok. And there is this woman, she's a book talk. And that's what they call it. I'm not really good at TikTok right now. um, she doesn't have much to do other than she's a parent of a child in HISD, and she took this very seriously. Like, she is reporting a lot, and so a lot of my information is coming directly from her. She's going to these meetings with the, board members, the, you know, appointed board members, not democratically elected board members, and she's reporting back. She's trying to get, like, information out because there's not a lot. It's really hard to find, like, and I've been searching for, like, something in the middle of the road, but a lot of information is slanted towards the district, where information is only coming from the district that is being reported and news articles are coming out on. So I think it's really important, and this is happening in a lot of places with a lot of cases. I started looking at Las Vegas and what's going on there with teacher pay because a lot of teachers are working without contracts, and it's hard to find the teacher's voice. So please be aware when you're reading the news and things. Could this be slanted? Are you getting everyone's? Are you getting a look at what everyone is thinking? Because it's very hard to find where the teachers are, where the parents in this community are, and find their voice. So, as I said, there were 28 elementary, middle, and high schools uh, that were targeted with this NES, new education system, for being underperforming. But two of the schools, Project Chrysalis and Cage Elementary, Um, they are one of the best schools in the city, one of the best schools in the state, and one of the best schools in the country. They've won like national blue ribbon awards. And this is not just like 1 year they won it. They've been winning it for generations. The teachers there have been there for for generations. This parent was sharing how one teacher is there and her mom also taught there and taught for longer than that teacher has been alive, and now they're teaching together. Like, this is a school where you want to be. It's A rated, amazing. And it switched over, the principal switched it over to the new education system that Miles brought in. And people are like, why are you doing this? You're A rated. You don't need to. What you're doing is clearly working. Well, finding out a little bit more information, Mike Miles basically came in and said, hey, here's what's going to happen. You can voluntarily adopt this NES, you can adopt this system, and all of your teaching staff will have positions. They'll be able to stay within the building, within the campus. If you don't, we'll take over your school next year anyways, and then reassign all the teachers and force them to reapply to their jobs. So, what do you think is going to happen? Like, this principal is caring for like, dozens and dozens of teachers. So the principal's like, okay, you know, I'll do this because I want to protect my teachers. Um, in the end, the principal was reassigned because the principal, it is believed that Mike Miles was like, this principal's not on board with me, which, why? why would you be surprised that that's the case? Um, so that principal was reassigned and they put basically like a yes man into that principal position at Project Chrysalis. Um, in the end, about 57 schools opted in to the NES program, but it was all because they were given the same ultimatum. So it looks on paper, it looks like, look, all these principals, all these schools are so for this system that, like, whoo, we are doing great. Pat yourselves on the back. But ultimately, like, this was like extortion. This was an ultimatum that the principals could not say no to, right? They're trying to protect their teachers, they're trying to protect the students. So, what a horrible manipulation of the system. Just like, I mean, this feels like the worst part, but it also isn't the worst part. Um, so before I go on, let me think through this. So, with what's happening, you have teachers that are forced into this new program. And even though they say it's for underperforming schools, it doesn't necessarily mean those schools are underperforming. Two of the best schools in the nation um, are going under this reform, and they don't need to, but they're being like their hand is being forced. Um, So let's get into this system, this NES, new education system. We've got a lot of information on it, so I'm going to be bouncing between different pages. First of all, this is what you've probably heard about NES and about Houston Independent School District is the replacing of the libraries, turning them into detention centers. Now, if you talk to anybody from the district, any of the yes men with Mike Miles, you will hear that these are team centers where students will receive extra support and students who misbehave will be disciplined watching lessons on Zoom. But this is really just a place for discipline. Like, it's a discipline center. They've like even the Houston mayor said that the library's plan is creating a prison-like atmosphere in spaces that are usually associated with learning. Um, yeah, just like um, it's it's shocking, it's astounding, and I'm trying to get through all this information. So that is probably what you've heard in the news if you've heard anything about HISD. It is these like library detention centers. Kids are not allowed to take out books, I believe. Maybe they are, but it's like all the books are in like this tiny little corner. Um, so that's what you've probably heard. Here's NES. Here's a little bit more about this new education system. 57 schools opted in. 28 schools were really the focus that didn't have a choice in taking and being like taken over by this new system for quote unquote being underperforming schools. Teachers are required to follow a very strict scripted curriculum, which isn't terribly surprising. I've been in a district where they pushed the script of the curriculum intensely. However, this is not like a Houghton Mifflin Amplify. This isn't anything like that. Um, it's it's created within the district, and these lessons are full of mistakes. They're confusing. Teachers don't have enough time to get through the material, which also is a very common issue. But this is like insane, and I'll tell you why. Um, Teachers are, when they're teaching this lesson, there are cameras in all the rooms. They're being monitored by school, like by district personnel, because that's a valuable use of education money. Um, yeah. And so they're being watched. Their performance and their pay is based largely on standardized test scores. So it is a pay-based salary or testing based salary schedule, pay for performance. There we go. And Miles has been said that testing students is essential to know where kids are at and is a key tool in preparing them for the 2030 workforce. So, career people that are outside of education, please tell me, how many standardized tests do you have to take for your job? It is test taking. And standardized testing, is that a valuable skill and thing to know to be successful in your profession, in your job, in your career? Yeah. So this is very misguided information. It's very accurately false information. Like accurately false. It's false. All right, I'm just going to stop there. So, these scripted lessons full of mistakes, there's actually proof that they are written by ChatGPT, OpenAI, like this is ridiculous. Um so here's what's happening in these lessons. They're scripted, they're confusing because they're being written by ChatGPT. They're not like it's not an encyclopedia, it doesn't tell you factful things. It will even lie if you're trying to push for like something factual in certain instances. But anyways, they have 3 and 4 minute segments that like when they hit, they actually like have a timer. And at the end of this 3 or 4 minutes, they have to move on. It doesn't matter if the kids are following along. It doesn't matter if the kids have understood the content being taught. When that alarm goes off, they move on to the next segment. They don't have a choice. They're being watched. Um, so they don't have time to cover the material in that brief amount of time. They have to go on to the next piece. And kids are forced to take a quiz at the end of every single class, every single like subject class and lesson. And there isn't time for kids to take the quiz. They didn't have time to learn the content that was going to be on the quiz, and they don't have time to actually complete the quiz. This is sending students into a state of like mental distress. There are more and more kids being sent to the counselor because their emotional well being is suffering, their academic well being is definitely suffering. Um, like, this is not okay. Like, where in the world does this happen in any like, anywhere? I don't know any jobs that deal with this kind of stress that is being put on teachers and on kids. Um, Teachers who ended up being who were speaking out saying, "Hey, these kids are stressed out emotionally," like, trying to just put awareness out there with the district. Um The division superintendent, Luz Martinez, ended up calling a meeting with these teachers who spoke out and basically berated them for 10 minutes. There is audio recording that I heard, and she was being very rude and saying, like, do it or your jobs are on the line, essentially. Um, there's one science teacher trying to speak some sense. She's from Project Chrysalis, and she tried to be like, "We're just trying to offer you feedback. We thought that this would be valuable information." She is now placed on home duty, and Luz Martinez has recommended that they terminate her contract for insubordination. And there ended up this made news to community members, and there were parents and yeah, basically parents were standing outside with signs and kind of protesting the ridiculousness of what's happening in the district. Um, and like the district was nervous, so they called the cops to stand between the parents who are just like, help our kids. Like, this teacher is a very effective teacher, and you got rid of her. That actually happened to another teacher, and then 2 more teachers were given the ultimatum of like, get in line or get out. And the teacher's like, we're out. Um, yeah, yeah. So this NES model, like even words from students who have wanted to make their voices heard, um, are saying it's very boring. Um, they're stressed out, they're anxious. Like, I can't imagine teaching through a lesson segment in 3 to 4 minutes, having an alarm go off, and then forcing my kids to move on to the next thing without stopping and helping. Like, you can't differentiate, you can't reteach. Like, kids are being pulled from these schools under the NES system and being taken to other schools that might have like a C or D rating with the state, because they're not the focus of, Mike Miles and his NES like nonsense. Um, like, teachers are getting in trouble for letting kids use the bathroom. Do you have permission to use the bathroom freely at your job? I mean, as teachers, we know we don't. But outside of education, like, do you have the freedom to go to the bathroom? I think so. I think most people have that freedom. Why are we taking it away from kids? Um, it's so frustrating. So this is happening. There has been research on state takeovers of schools. And shocker, I bet you're going to be super surprised. So Beth Solar, I'm saying that wrong, published research in 2021 after analyzing before and after test results for all 35 state takeovers from 2011 to 2016, and found on average there is no evidence that takeovers generate academic benefits, and it can actually be disruptive to academic achievement. So nothing that is going on right now is okay, and nothing that is going on has research backing it up, right? Like, and to add insult to injury, teachers are not given the space or time to address students' legally mandated accommodations if they have an IEP, an individualized education program, a 504 or EL or our ELL, and get services there, which is English language learner. That's a crime, because those are illegal. Those are legal contracts that teachers and schools sign to support the students, so they're not getting those services. They are going to continue falling behind. And even teachers who are sneakily trying to provide supports and services to those students, district employees who are watching, come in and have stopped classes in their tracks. Can't let kids go to the bathroom, but we're going to stop your class so we can berate you in front of all of your students, and make it clear that, like, hey, you don't get to do this. You don't get to slow down. You've got to go, go, go. Stay on schedule. Which, like, my whole heart hurts for these teachers, because I know this isn't okay. So, like, HISD, like, they're breaking laws. And my biggest question here is, like, where is the Department of Education? Why haven't they stepped in? There's been so much talk about what's happening in schools right now, the books that we can or cannot talk about, the history that we can and cannot talk about. I have not heard anything from the Department of Education. And maybe that's because what they're doing is going under the radar, possibly, but it should be news. Like, I watch the news on different, in different ways. I see reports. No one's talking about education. Like, John Oliver just on Sunday talked about homeschooling, which is like a whole different thing. And it's, whoa, is what that is. But no one's talking about education and what's happening around the country. And my biggest worry is this is a path that we're on. Yes, this is happening in one school district, but depending on who is in control, this can happen more. And we are, like, this is a battle. This is not like get your weapons or anything, but this needs to be addressed, and we need to give teachers a say. We need to look at education, because what's happening here is not okay. And I'm afraid this is going to spread, that this is going to go and go after other cities. Like, this is the 4th largest district in the country. And if they're doing this here, they can do it with other big districts. They can do it with smaller districts. And we can't let this happen. We can't. Um, like this is just, it's not okay. And students are suffering. And like, it might not be my place as, a white woman, but this is racist. This is happening in largely, Black and Latino schools, but they're taking away true, authentic education, and that's not right. And not only that, but it's very classist because the kids in these affluent areas, they're not getting this education system. If you would think that this works for this is going to be everywhere, then why wouldn't you implement this in the affluent neighborhoods as hard as you're implementing it in the higher needs neighborhoods? Um, so I do think that there is racism and there is classism happening with these decisions. And that needs to also be addressed. We should be giving our best resources to the highest needs. We should be making sure that they're getting our very best. And this is not it. And the people in charge know this isn't it. And we're still pushing it. And we're not talking about it. Like, we need to be talking about it. So that's why I have this video out. It's gone so much longer than I meant it to. But I have like 7 pages of notes. And I think I got through most of them. Um, So yeah, and again, when you're researching Houston ISD, it's hard to find where the truth is. Um, you might have to go, it's so hard because teachers' voices are not being heard in this instance and in so many others. Parents are fighting with teachers, and that's always nice to see. Like, it's not good when parents and teachers are standing together and saying, "Hey, this is horrible." Um, I hope there's more of that in the future for everywhere, but like less of the awfulness of Mike Miles and his like board of just like sycophants. Um, but like just get informed. I'm sharing as much information as I can with you. If there's more research and facts that come out, I will share it with you. But this is important because this can spread. And I think the worst thing that could happen is this spreading. We got to stomp it out here and now. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna record a happy story next for next week. um, yeah, so I'm gonna go work on that. I hope you all have a great day. Please make sure you're following, subscribing. Check out my Instagram. I'm going live on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time on Instagram at not_your_ordinary_teacher. Have a great day.